A fighter jet that defies gravity? A Swedish fighter jet appeared to break the laws of physics. That was the shocking claim. It came from a training exercise where the Saab Gripen performed a maneuver that seemed impossible. The report said the aircraft made a turn so sharp and at a speed so high it should have fallen out of the sky. Instead, it kept flying seemingly unaffected by extreme forces. The single event sparked online debate and wild speculation. Did Saab secretly invent new technology? Had pilots witnessed something science couldn't explain? The story spread like wildfire, capturing the imagination of aviation fans and defense experts. Initial reports said the Gripen pulled a sustained high G turn that on paper exceeded its structural limits and its aerodynamic capabilities. Pilots from another nation's air force, flying alongside, were reportedly stunned. Their own fighters couldn't replicate the move. Data recorders allegedly confirmed the impossible performance. It sounded more like science fiction than a routine exercise. This wasn't just a performance claim. It challenged our fundamental understanding of flight. It was a mystery that demanded an answer. This raises important questions for military aviation fans. How can a machine of metal, wires, and fuel do the impossible? The laws of aerodynamics are well understood. They govern every aircraft from a Cessna to a stealth bomber. These rules dictate lift generation and how much force an airframe can withstand. A claim that a jet can ignore these limits is extraordinary. It requires extraordinary proof. Without clear explanation, we're left with a puzzling contradiction. In this essay, we will investigate the claim. We will start by examining the original report and its viral spread. Then we'll break down the essential physics of flight in simple terms. We'll look at what makes the Gripen unique and capable. We'll explore other explanations, sensor errors, human perception. Our goal isn't to spread myths or hype. Instead, we aim for calm, clear analysis. We'll separate surprising facts from fiction and get to the bottom of what happened. Section 2. Separating fact from fighter jet fiction. Our journey begins with a promise to deliver clarity, not confusion. When a story like this emerges, the initial reaction is shock and amazement. The idea of a jet breaking physics is exciting. It fuels curiosity about secret tech and the limits of human ingenuity. We are investigators, not storytellers. We will follow the evidence where it leads, relying on facts, expert opinions, established scientific principles. We will not be swayed by sensational headlines or unverified social media claims. The truth is often more complex and more interesting than the myth. We will hear from the experts, aerospace engineers, combat pilots. Their experience provides crucial context.
As one veteran pilot noted, in the air, things can look impossible from one angle but perfectly normal from another.
We will also consult physicists. They'll explain core principles of flight without jargon. This shows what's truly possible and what's fiction. This essay will dissect the Gripen, canard wings, advanced fly-by-wire flight control system. These give the Gripen its famous agility. We will compare it to other fighters. American F-16, Russian Su-35. This comparison highlights strengths and trade-offs. Is the Gripen revolutionary, or an exceptional evolution of existing tech? Answering this solves the mystery of the maneuver. This investigation is about critical thinking. Approach extraordinary claims with skepticism and curiosity. By the end, you'll know the likely explanation, chucks, and how to assess similar stories. We will cut through the noise and deliver a clear takeaway. Replace shock with the satisfaction of a solved puzzle. Table of Contents. Part 2, Act 1. The reported incident. 1. The story breaks. A report from the skies. 2. The whispers begin. How the news traveled. 3. The impossible turn. Detailing the claim. 4. First reactions. Experts weigh in. 5. The official response. Saab and the Air Forces. Section 1. The story breaks. A report from the skies. The story first surfaced in a niche but respected defense publication. It wasn't a major headline in a global newspaper. Instead, it appeared in a report focused on joint military exercises. The article, citing anonymous sources, detailed a specific training sortie that took place over the North Sea in late 2023. The exercise involved pilots from several NATO-aligned countries. Their mission was to practice beyond visual range within visual range combat scenarios. These exercises are common. They help pilots from different nations learn to work together. But on this day, something highly unusual was reported during one of the simulated dogfights. The initial account came from pilots who were not flying the Gripen. They were operating other well-known Western fighters, F-16 Falcon, Eurofighter Typhoon. According to the report, these pilots observed a Swedish Gripen C performing a maneuver they could not comprehend. They described it as a turn so aggressive and sustained, it seemed to defy their training and experience. The language used in the initial debriefings was reportedly filled with surprise and disbelief. These were not rookie pilots. They were seasoned professionals with thousands of flight hours. Their testimony gave the story immediate credibility within military aviation circles. The report provided a clear timeline. The incident occurred during a high-G combat simulation, where aircraft pushed their performance envelopes to the maximum. As the jets engaged in a mock dogfight, the Gripen pilot was said to have executed a defensive turn to evade a simulated missile attack. The opposing pilots watched as the Gripen, instead of losing speed and energy as expected, maintained its velocity while turning inside their own flight path. This move effectively placed the Gripen in an advantageous position behind its adversary. This unexpected performance was the core of the stunning report that would soon captivate a much wider audience. What made the story so powerful was its source. It did not originate from Saab's marketing department or a Swedish Air Force press release. It came from the perspective of rival pilots. Their observations were supposedly backed up by their jet's own sensor data, which tracked the Gripen's speed, altitude, and trajectory. This external validation was crucial. It suggested that this was not just a subjective pilot account, but an event recorded by multiple independent systems. The report from the skies was clear. A Swedish jet had just done something that seasoned fighter pilots thought was impossible, and they had the data to prove it. Section 2. The Whispers. Begin. How the news traveled. Once the initial article was published, the story did not explode into the mainstream media immediately. It began to spread through more specialized channels. Aviation forums, defense-focused social media accounts, military blogs. In these online communities, the claims were dissected and debated with intense passion. Enthusiasts and amateur analysts created diagrams and ran informal simulations. The headline quickly morphed. Gripen defies physics. The narrative was simple, powerful, and incredibly shareable. The whispers were turning into a roar. The journey followed a predictable pattern. Each share made the details more dramatic and the headline more sensational. Nuance was lost. Cautious words like reportedly and allegedly were dropped. New posts declared it a proven fact. The maneuver was no longer just a high-G turn. It was now an anti-gravity move or a zero-speed pirouette. Exaggeration is common online. Attention is the currency. The more unbelievable, the faster it travels, creating a feedback loop. Key influencers amplified the story. Retired pilots, defense journalists, popular YouTube channels with large followings. They reached hundreds of thousands of viewers, often framing it as a David versus Goliath story. Small, affordable Gripen versus larger, expensive fighters. The narrative suggested clever engineering could beat brute force. Lack of detailed info created a vacuum for speculation. Without official confirmation or denial, theories ran wild. Some suggested the Gripen was equipped with a secret new engine or an advanced thrust vectoring system that Saab had kept under wraps. Others proposed more outlandish ideas, hinting at classified aerodynamic technologies. Genuine curiosity, national pride, and the internet's love for a good mystery. The impossible Gripen was no longer just a report. It had become a modern aviation legend in the making. Section 3. The impossible turn. Detailing the claim. At the heart of the incident was the specific maneuver the Gripen reportedly performed. According to the pilots who witnessed it, the jet executed a sustained, high-G horizontal turn without significant loss of airspeed. In aerial combat, this is the holy grail. When a fighter turns, it creates immense drag, which bleeds off energy and causes it to slow down. To make a tight turn while maintaining speed, a jet needs an incredible amount of engine thrust to overcome that drag. The claim was that the Gripen sustained a turn of approximately 9 Gs, 9 times the force of gravity, for several seconds while holding a near constant speed. This is where the claim runs into the hard numbers of physics and engineering. Every aircraft has a performance chart, known as an envelope, that shows what it can and cannot do at different altitudes and speeds. One key part of this chart is the corner speed, the optimal speed at which a jet can achieve its maximum instantaneous turn rate. Turning tighter or faster than this usually results in a rapid loss of energy. The report suggested the Gripen operated far outside the publicly known performance envelope for a jet of its size and engine power. It was performing like a much heavier, more powerful aircraft. Some accounts claim the Gripen maintained a speed of over 500 knots while pulling a sustained 9G turn. For aerospace engineers, this combination sounds almost fictional. A fighter's ability to sustain a turn is directly related to its thrust-to-weight ratio, wing design, and aerodynamic efficiency. While the Gripen is known for being an exceptionally agile and efficient aircraft, these reported figures were a step beyond. They seem to imply that the Gripen possessed a thrust or lift generation capability that was 20 to 30% greater than its specifications would suggest. The opposing pilot's inability to follow the maneuver was a key piece of the puzzle. They were flying highly capable aircraft, themselves able to pull 9 Gs. However, their jets would have bled energy much more quickly in such a turn, forcing them to either reduce the turn's sharpness or lose speed and altitude. The Gripen, according to the story, did neither. It simply carved through the air in a way that left the other pilots watching in astonishment. This was the core of the impossible claim, not just that the Gripen turned hard, but that it did so without paying the usual aerodynamic price. Section 4. First reactions. Experts weigh in. As the story gained traction, defense journalists began to contact aerospace experts and retired combat pilots for their opinions. The initial reactions were a mix of deep skepticism and professional curiosity. No one was willing to dismiss the report out of hand, especially since it originated from credible pilot testimony. However, most experts immediately cautioned against jumping to conclusions.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Right now, we have a story, not data. This sentiment was echoed by many in the field. Pilots in particular offered a unique perspective. Many noted that perception in a high-speed, high-G environment can be misleading.
What looks impossible from your cockpit can be a combination of the other jet's position, your own G-loading, and the angle of the sun.
They pointed out that without seeing the full telemetry data from all aircraft involved, it was premature to declare that any laws of physics were broken. They emphasized the skill of the pilot as a major factor. A highly skilled Gripen pilot might be able to exploit the jet's specific strengths in a way that looks magical to an opponent. Some analysts focused on the Gripen's unique design. The combination of its delta wing and canards is known to give it excellent performance at high angles of attack. This allows it to generate a lot of lift for sharp turns.
The Gripen is designed for exceptional turn performance.
It's possible we are seeing the absolute peak of that design, pushed to the limit by a top-tier pilot. However, even the experts who praised the Gripen's design expressed doubts about the specific numbers being reported online. The idea of sustaining a 9G turn with no speed loss was the main sticking point.
There is no free lunch in aerodynamics.
To counteract that much drag requires a specific amount of thrust. If the engine can't produce it, the jet will slow down. It's that simple. This created a clear line in the debate. Most experts believed something impressive happened, but they were deeply skeptical that it was as impossible as the viral story claimed. Section 5. The official response. Saab and the Air Forces. With the story spreading rapidly, pressure mounted for a statement. The first to respond was Saab, the Swedish company that manufactures the Gripen. Their official response was measured, deliberately low-key.
Did not confirm or deny.
The Gripen is designed to provide superior maneuverability and situational awareness in complex air combat scenarios. We are proud of its capabilities. This type of non-denial denial is common in the defense industry. Directly confirming such a specific performance detail could reveal classified information. It could also create diplomatic friction. By neither confirming nor denying the story, Saab managed to benefit from the positive publicity without being drawn into a technical debate it could not publicly win. The statement effectively fanned the flames of speculation while maintaining a professional and reserved posture. For those who wanted to believe, Saab's response was seen as a subtle confirmation. The Air Forces involved were even more tight-lipped. When asked for comment, spokespeople for the Swedish Air Force and the other participating nations gave standard boilerplate responses. They confirmed that a joint training exercise had taken place but declined to comment on the specifics. An official from one of the NATO air forces stated, "Debriefings from these exercises are used to improve our tactics and procedures. They are not intended for public discussion." This official silence was expected, as military organizations rarely discuss the precise performance details of their hardware in public. The lack of an official, detailed rebuttal created an information void. Into this void, the story continued to grow. The official silence was interpreted by many online commentators as proof that something truly remarkable had occurred. The logic was simple. If the story were false, the authorities would have quickly and forcefully debunked it. Since they did not, many concluded that the impossible maneuver must have happened exactly as described. This left the public with a compelling story, a handful of cautious expert opinions, and a wall of official silence. The perfect conditions for a modern myth to take root and flourish. Table of Contents, Part 3, Act 2, about 5 sections. 1. The Four Forces, a pilot's balancing act. 2. Pushing the limits, what G-force really means. 3. The stall, when a wing stops flying. 4. The magic of fly-by-wire, how computers tame the beast. 5. Seeing isn't always believing, when data lies. To understand how any aircraft flies, we must first look at the 4 fundamental forces that are always at play. Imagine a constant tug-of-war in the sky. Lift is the upward force created by the wings as they move through the air, pushing the aircraft up. Weight is the downward force of gravity, constantly trying to pull the aircraft back to Earth. Thrust is the forward force generated by the jet's engine, pushing the aircraft through the air. Drag is the backward force of air resistance, acting like friction and trying to slow the aircraft down. For a plane to stay in the air, lift must be equal to or greater than its weight. It is a simple but crucial balance that every pilot manages from takeoff to landing. Next, we have the horizontal forces. Thrust is the forward force generated by the jet's engine, pushing the aircraft through the air. Drag is the backward force of air resistance, acting like friction and trying to slow the aircraft down. To fly at a constant speed, thrust must exactly balance drag. If a pilot wants to accelerate, they must increase thrust so it is greater than drag. If they reduce thrust, drag will win the tug-of-war, and the aircraft will slow down. Lift, weight, thrust, and drag are in a constant dynamic dance, and the pilot's job is to manage this dance perfectly. During a maneuver like a sharp turn, This balancing act becomes incredibly complex. When a pilot banks the aircraft to turn, they are redirecting some of the wing's lift sideways. This is what pulls the aircraft into the turn. However, because some lift is now being used to turn, there is less lift available to counteract the aircraft's weight. To avoid falling out of the sky, the pilot must increase the total amount of lift. This is usually done by pulling back on the control stick, which increases the wing's angle of attack. This action, however, creates a massive amount of additional drag, acting like a giant air brake. This is the core problem in a dogfight. To make a tight turn, a pilot needs a lot of lift, but creating more lift also creates immense drag. This drag bleeds away the aircraft's precious energy, causing it to slow down dramatically. To maintain speed during this turn, the engine must produce enormous amounts of thrust to overcome the spike in drag. Therefore, an aircraft's ability to sustain a tight turn is a direct function of how much thrust its engine can produce compared to its weight and the drag it generates. It is not magic. It is a brutal equation of power versus resistance. You often hear about pilots pulling G's in a turn. This term, G-force, is simply a way to measure acceleration. 1 G is the normal force of gravity we feel every day. When a pilot pulls 9 Gs in a turn, they feel a force equal to 9 times their own body weight. This immense force affects not only the pilot, but every single part of the aircraft. The wings must be strong enough to support 9 times the plane's normal weight. Engine mounts, tail, fuselage. Exceeding these structural limits can cause the aircraft to literally break apart in mid-air. The human body is also a major limiting factor. At high Gs, blood is forced away from the pilot's head and down toward their feet. This can lead to a loss of vision, a condition known as grayout or blackout. If the G-force is sustained, the pilot can lose consciousness entirely, a dangerous situation called G-lock, G-induced loss of consciousness. Fighter pilots wear special G-suits that inflate with air to squeeze their legs and abdomen, helping to keep blood in the upper body. They also practice special breathing techniques to combat these effects. But even with this equipment and training, there is a hard limit to what the human body can endure. When we discuss a sustained 9G turn, we are talking about holding this incredible force for several seconds. This is different from an instantaneous 9G pull, which might only last a moment. Sustaining the turn is much more difficult for both the pilot and the plane. For the pilot, it is a grueling physical ordeal. For the aircraft, it requires the engine to maintain a massive level of thrust to fight the equally massive drag created by the turn.
The ability to sustain high G turns is a key metric of fighter performance, and it's all about having surplus power.
So, when we hear a claim about an impossible turn, it is often related to this concept of sustained performance. Could a Gripen pull 9 Gs? Absolutely, for a short period. Most modern fighters can. The truly extraordinary part of the claim is that it could sustain that turn without losing speed. This would imply that the Gripen has a thrust-to-weight ratio and an aerodynamic efficiency that is far superior to its published specifications. It suggests an engine that can pour on the power to overcome the crushing drag of a high G turn, a feat that pushes the known boundaries of jet engine technology. One of the most misunderstood concepts in flight is the stall. A stall has nothing to do with the engine quitting. An aircraft can stall with its engine at full power. A stall is an aerodynamic event that happens to the wings. It occurs when the wing is tilted up at too steep an angle relative to the oncoming air. This is called the angle of attack. As you increase the angle of attack, the wing generates more lift, which is useful for tight turns and slow flight. However, there is a critical point. If the angle of attack becomes too great, the smooth airflow over the top of the wing separates and becomes turbulent. This separation of airflow causes a dramatic and sudden loss of lift. The wing, in effect, stops flying. When an aircraft stalls, it often drops a wing, pitches down, and begins to lose altitude rapidly. Recovering from a stall requires the pilot to lower the aircraft's nose to reduce the angle of attack, allowing smooth airflow to reattach to the wing. In a high-speed dogfight, a stall can be catastrophic. It results in a complete loss of energy and control, making the aircraft an easy target. Pilots train extensively to fly on the edge of a stall without ever crossing over into one. Modern fighter jets like the Gripen are designed to perform exceptionally well at high angles of attack. The Gripen's combination of a delta wing and forward canards, the small wings near the cockpit, helps to manage the airflow over the main wing. The canards create vortices, swirls of air, that flow back over the wing and delay the onset of a stall. This allows the Gripen pilot to pull the nose up to a very high angle of attack, generating immense lift for incredibly tight turns without stalling. This is a key part of the Gripen's famous agility and a major design advantage. However, even this advanced design cannot eliminate the risk of a stall entirely. There is still a hard deck, a physical limit that cannot be crossed. The claims about the Gripen's turn suggest it was operating in a regime where other aircraft would be at high risk of stalling. The maneuver would have required the pilot to maintain an extremely high angle of attack for a sustained period. The fact that the Gripen did not stall, according to the report, points to its exceptional aerodynamic stability and control. It doesn't break the laws of physics, but it does show a mastery of flight at the very edge of the performance envelope. In older aircraft, the pilot's controls were physically connected to the control surfaces by cables and pulleys. In a modern fighter like the Gripen, this is no longer the case. The Gripen uses a fly-by-wire system. When the pilot moves the control stick, they are not directly moving the wings or tail. Instead, they are sending an electronic signal to a powerful flight control computer. The computer then interprets the pilot's command and decides the best way to move the control surfaces to achieve the desired result, making thousands of calculations and adjustments per second. This computer acts as a smart intermediary. It knows the aircraft's limits far better than any human could. It knows the exact angle of attack that will lead to a stall, and it knows the maximum G-force the airframe can withstand. A pilot can pull back on the stick with all their might, but the fly-by-wire system will not allow the aircraft to perform a maneuver that would cause it to stall or break apart.
The computer provides a safety net.
It lets the pilot fly aggressively right up to the edge without fear of going over it. This allows the pilot to focus on the fight, not on the fine details of flying the plane. The Gripen is also what engineers call an aerodynamically unstable aircraft. This sounds dangerous, but it is actually a key to its agility. A stable aircraft, like a passenger airliner, wants to fly straight and level. An unstable aircraft, by contrast, constantly wants to change its direction. This instability makes it incredibly responsive and maneuverable. However, it would be impossible for a human pilot to control such an aircraft on their own. The fly-by-wire computer is essential. It constantly makes tiny, precise adjustments to the control surfaces to keep the aircraft stable and under control, taming the beast's natural instability. This combination of an unstable airframe and a smart fly-by-wire system is what gives the Gripen its carefree handling. The pilot can demand maximum performance, and the computer will deliver it safely and efficiently. This could help explain the impossible turn. A Gripen pilot, knowing the computer has their back, might be more willing to attempt an aggressive maneuver at the edge of the envelope. The computer, in turn, would orchestrate the canards, wings, and rudder with superhuman precision to execute the turn in the most energy-efficient way possible, a feat that would look seamless and almost magical to an outside observer. While we often think of sensors and telemetry as giving us perfect, objective truth, they can sometimes be misleading. An aircraft's performance data is collected by a complex array of sensors: speed, altitude, G-loading. These sensors are not infallible. They can be affected by extreme conditions. They can suffer momentary glitches. They can require calibration. In a high G turn, sensors can produce erroneous readings or spikes. A momentary data spike showing 9 Gs might not mean the aircraft actually sustained that force. The data is recorded by different systems on different aircraft. Gripen internal data recorders. Opposing F-16 tracking systems. Small differences in how systems calculate position and velocity can create different interpretations. Reconstructing a dogfight from multiple data sources is complex. You have to synchronize the data and account for errors in each system. It's rarely a clean picture. What looks impossible on one display can be normal when data is fused. Human perception is another variable. A pilot pulling high Gs may perceive another aircraft distorted. Relative positions, speeds, and angles can create optical illusions.
I've seen it 100 times. A student will swear they saw it, but the recorder shows otherwise.
The cockpit is a confusing place, so the impossible report could come from a mix of these factors. A highly skilled Gripen pilot executed an exceptional maneuver near the jet's limits, aided by fly-by-wire. Viewed under stress and tracked by other sensors, it may have been exaggerated. A sensor spike or slight mismatch could turn an 8.5 G turn into a legendary 9 G claim. No new physics needed, just limits of technology and perception. The Saab Gripen is a masterpiece of balanced design. It was not built to be the fastest. It was not built to be the biggest fighter. Instead, it was engineered for efficiency and for agility. A key feature is its delta wing paired with canards. Canards are the small wings, right near the cockpit, placed in front of the main wing. That combo gives exceptional performance in turns. The canards move independently, steering airflow over the main wing in a very precise way. That creates tremendous lift even at very high angles of attack, which lets the Gripen make sharp, aggressive turns without stalling. Compared to other fighters, the Gripen's philosophy is different. Many American fighters, like the F-22 Raptor, rely on overwhelming thrust from powerful engines. They use brute force to power through maneuvers. The Gripen uses a single, highly efficient Volvo RM12 engine, a derivative of the GE F404. It takes a more elegant approach. It is lightweight and aerodynamically sophisticated. Its relaxed stability design is managed by an advanced fly-by-wire computer. That makes the aircraft naturally twitchy and very quick to respond. Its agility comes from clever aerodynamics more than raw power. That lets it hold its own against heavier, more powerful opponents. The trade-offs are clear. It excels in turn performance and efficiency, but it cannot match top speed or payload capacity of larger twin-engine fighters like the F-15 Eagle or the Su-35 flanker. It's a multi-role fighter optimized for defensive counter-air missions and for operating from shorter, austere runways. Its strengths are low operational cost, high sortie rate, and superb dogfighting within visual range. The reported maneuver, a tight, sustained turn, plays directly to these strengths. The Gripen was built for this kind of fight. The fly-by-wire system is the brain that unlocks the aircraft's potential. It's programmed with the Gripen's full performance envelope. The pilot commands a maneuver, and the computer executes it optimally. It manages engine, canards, and control surfaces with precision no human can match.
An engineer at Saab said, "The pilot tells the jet what they want to do. The jet's computer figures out how to do it without breaking the plane or the pilot."
This hardware-software integration is what makes the Gripen's performance possible. Section 2. Man and Machine. The Pilot Factor. An advanced aircraft is only as good as the pilot in the cockpit. The human element is a critical and often underestimated part of any aerial engagement. Swedish Air Force pilots are known for their rigorous and extensive training. They spend countless hours in simulators. They spend countless hours in the air, learning to exploit every last ounce of the Gripen's performance. A pilot who intimately understands their aircraft's strengths and weaknesses can consistently outperform an adversary in a superior machine. Pilot skill is not just about reflexes. It is about tactical decision-making. It is about energy management. It is about knowing exactly when to push the limits. In the context of the impossible turn, the pilot's role cannot be overstated. A skilled Gripen pilot would know precisely the right entry speed and the right altitude to begin the maneuver. They would know how to use the jet's energy-efficient design to sustain the turn longer than an opponent might expect. This is a skill honed over thousands of flight hours. The decision to execute such a high-risk, high-reward maneuver at that exact moment is a testament to the pilot's situational awareness and confidence. The maneuver may have looked impossible to the other pilots because it was a perfect execution of a very specific tactic, tailored to the Gripen's unique flight characteristics. Furthermore, pilot conditioning plays a huge part in high-G combat. Enduring 9 times the force of gravity is physically brutal. Pilots undergo intense physical training to handle these forces. They practice anti-G straining maneuvers. These are specialized breathing techniques and muscle tensing techniques to prevent blood from rushing from their heads. A pilot who is better conditioned or more practiced in these techniques can remain effective at high Gs for longer periods. It is plausible that the Swedish pilot was simply better prepared for that specific environment, allowing them to sustain the maneuver while their opponents were already feeling the strain. The psychology of a dogfight is also important. A pilot who trusts their machine completely is more likely to fly it aggressively. The Gripen's carefree handling, guaranteed by the fly-by-wire system, the pilot knows the computer provides a safety net, preventing stalls or structural damage. This frees them to focus entirely on their opponent. This mental advantage, physical conditioning, deep training, creates a formidable combination. The story of the Gripen's turn is as much a story about an elite pilot as it is about an elite machine. Section 3. When sensors stumble, glitches in the G-force. Modern fighter jets are flying supercomputers, packed with sensors that gather terabytes of data. Technician inspecting a complex sensor pod on the wing. However, these systems are not perfect. Telemetry data records everything from G-force and airspeed. A data spike is a common phenomenon where a sensor briefly reports an extreme, non-real value. This can be caused by vibration, electromagnetic interference, or the extreme physical forces of a maneuver. A momentary spike of 9 Gs on a data log does not mean sustained Gs. It could be a phantom reading lasting a fraction of a second. Consider how the data was collected. Initial reports came from other pilots tracking the Gripen. Chase aircraft tracking footage. Their onboard sensors like radar systems and infrared systems. They calculate a target's position, speed, and trajectory. That data is used to estimate the target's G-loading. This is an indirect measurement. Small tracking errors can cause large calculation errors.
Calculating G from a distance is a noisy process. We filter the data, but anomalies remain.
The 9G reading could be an artifact of imperfect tracking. Even the Gripen's internal recorders can err. The inertial navigation system, accelerometers, must be perfectly calibrated. In air combat, with the aircraft rolling, pulling hard, these systems are under immense strain. A sensor could register a brief erroneous peak during the violent part of the turn. One data point taken out of context can imply sustained, physics-defying performance. Reality was likely an impressive but physically possible maneuver. Sensor error or data misinterpretation is more likely than secret anti-gravity tech. Aerospace experts favor the simplest explanation first. Glitches in sensors or tracking algorithms are documented issues. It's a mundane but credible explanation for an extraordinary claim. Before assuming physics are broken, question the data reliability. Often the story is not the event, but how it was measured and recorded. The sky is a vast, a three-dimensional arena with no reference points. This can create powerful optical illusions, especially in a high-speed dogfight. What one pilot sees from their cockpit can be dramatically different from what another pilot sees. An aircraft's maneuver is rarely confined to a single plane of motion. A turning fighter is often also climbing or descending. From an opponent's perspective, A complex spiraling maneuver might look like a simple, flat, horizontal turn. This distortion of perspective can make a competitor's performance seem unbelievable. Imagine two jets in a turning fight. If the Gripen initiated a turn and simultaneously began a slight climb or a slight descent, its flight path would be a corkscrew. To an opposing pilot who is also pulling Gs and focused on keeping their opponent in sight, this three-dimensional move could be perceived as a two-dimensional one. They might see the Gripen's nose track across the horizon at an incredible rate, interpreting it as a turn of impossible tightness. They would not necessarily perceive the subtle change in altitude that made the maneuver possible by trading height for energy or trading energy for height. As a Top Gun instructor would say, what you see is not always what is happening. You have to trust your instruments and understand their limits. This effect is known as relative motion, and it can be extremely deceptive. A pilot's own motion heavily influences their perception of another object's motion. While under the strain of high G-forces, with vision narrowing and the body feeling incredibly heavy, the brain can struggle to accurately process complex visual information. A pilot might swear they saw a jet pivot in mid-air, when in reality it performed a rapid roll and a tight pull maneuver. These subjective accounts, while given in good faith, are why flight data recorders are so crucial for post-flight analysis. Human perception is simply not a reliable narrator in the chaos of a dogfight. Therefore, the story of the impossible turn could be a classic case of perspective distortion. The Gripen pilot, executing a masterful three-dimensional maneuver, presented a baffling picture to their adversaries. The opposing pilots, seeing the Gripen achieve a superior tactical position through a move they could not visually comprehend, might have described it in supernatural terms. This explanation requires no sensor glitches or data errors. It only requires an understanding that in aerial combat, the eyes can deceive. The impossible move may have been an illusion, born from the complex dance of two jets at the edge of performance. After examining the technology, the pilot, the potential for error, we can assemble a list of the most plausible explanations for the reported incident. It is highly unlikely that the Gripen broke physics or is equipped with some secret, revolutionary propulsion system. The laws of aerodynamics are unforgiving. Instead, the truth is likely a combination of several more mundane, yet still impressive, factors. One leading theory is that we are seeing a convergence of peak performance from both man and machine. An elite pilot pushed a highly agile, aerodynamically efficient aircraft to its absolute limit. The most probable scenario combines several elements. First, a highly skilled Swedish pilot, deeply familiar with the Gripen's strengths, executed a perfectly timed and executed maneuver. Second, they utilized the Gripen's unique Delta Canard design, an advanced fly-by-wire system, to maintain control and energy at a very high angle of attack. This allowed the jet to perform at the very peak of its known, classified performance envelope, which is likely superior to the publicly available data. This impressive, but physically possible maneuver was then observed by opponents under high stress. The impossible nature of the claim likely comes from a combination of measurement errors and perception errors. The opposing pilots, perhaps from a disadvantageous angle and while under G-load themselves, may have misperceived the maneuver's geometry. Their onboard tracking systems, making indirect calculations, could have generated a momentary data spike or a slight overestimation of the Gripen's turn rate and energy state. This combination of a visually confusing maneuver and a slightly erroneous data point would be enough to create a report of an impossible feat. The story spread from there, with each retelling stripping away the nuance and amplifying the sensational claim. In conclusion, there is no single magic bullet explanation. The event was not a myth, but it was also not magic. It was the result of a superbly designed aircraft, an exceptionally trained pilot, and the inherent fog of war that exists even in training. The Gripen did not defy physics. It demonstrated a mastery of it. The story serves as a powerful reminder that in the world of aerial combat, the line between peak performance and perceived impossibility is incredibly thin. The most likely answer is that we witnessed a perfect storm of skill, technology, and perspective that, for a moment, looked like it came from the pages of science fiction. In the end, the mystery of the Saab Gripen's impossible turn is not a story about breaking the laws of physics. It is a story about mastering them. The initial, shocking report of a jet defying gravity captured our collective imagination, sparking debates and fueling speculation about secret Swedish technology. However, a calm and methodical investigation reveals a much more plausible and in many ways more impressive reality. The event was not a moment of sorcery, but a demonstration of supreme skill, advanced engineering, and the complex, often confusing nature of high-speed aerial combat. The Gripen did not perform a miracle. Its pilot executed a maneuver at the absolute peak of modern aerodynamic performance. The most likely explanation is a convergence of several key factors. First, we have an exceptionally well-trained pilot. This pilot, leveraging the aircraft's lightweight, agile design and sophisticated fly-by-wire system, pushed the jet to the very edge of its performance envelope. The Gripen's Delta Canard configuration is specifically designed for high angle of attack maneuverability, allowing it to sustain turn rates that can surprise pilots of other, heavier fighters. The maneuver was likely a masterful display of energy management, using the jet's efficiency to its maximum advantage in a way that appeared to defy the typical trade-off between turning and speed. This impressive, but entirely possible performance was then filtered through the lens of human perception and imperfect data collection. The opposing pilots, under the immense physical strain and mental strain of a high-G environment, likely witnessed a maneuver from a perspective that distorted its true nature. A complex three-dimensional turn could have appeared as an impossibly tight two-dimensional one. This subjective experience, potentially combined with a momentary sensor glitch or a slight miscalculation in tracking data, would be enough to create the impossible narrative. A brief data spike showing 9 Gs could easily be misinterpreted as a sustained, physics-defying feat. Therefore, the puzzle is solved not by revealing a secret weapon, but by piecing together a chain of logical events. There was no single cause, but rather a perfect storm of circumstances. The combination of an elite pilot, a uniquely designed aircraft, and the inherent fog of war and dogfight created a modern aviation legend. The Gripen did not need to break physics because its design is a testament to exploiting physics in the most elegant way possible. The story is a powerful reminder that the most advanced component in any fighter jet is often the highly trained human being sitting in the cockpit, seamlessly integrated with their machine. The tale of the Gripen's impossible move offers a valuable lesson that extends far beyond the world of military aviation. It serves as a case study in how to approach extraordinary claims in an age of rapid information sharing. The initial, sensational headline was exciting and easy to believe, but it lacked context and evidence. The story's journey from a niche report to a viral myth highlights our natural attraction to mystery and the temptation to accept simple, dramatic explanations over more complex, nuanced ones. The most important takeaway is the need for healthy skepticism and a commitment to seeking out facts from credible sources. When confronted with similar claims in the future, remember the process we followed here. First, question the source and look for the original report. Second, listen to what a range of experts have to say, engineers, operators themselves, and pay attention to their cautious, measured language. Third, seek to understand the fundamental principles involved. This approach helps build a framework for distinguishing what's truly revolutionary from what is simply an exceptional application of known principles. Prefer measured explanations over wild speculation. This story should not diminish our admiration for the Saab Gripen or its pilots. On the contrary, understanding what likely happened should increase our respect for the incredible synergy of design and skill on display. The reality, a lighter, more efficient jet, can use its agility to outmaneuver more powerful opponents through clever engineering and superior pilot training, is a far more compelling narrative than one involving fictional technology. It celebrates human ingenuity and dedication, the true engines of progress. The Gripen's performance was not magic, but the result of decades of brilliant, focused engineering. Ultimately, we are left with a clear and satisfying conclusion. The Swedish jet did not break physics. Instead, it provided a stunning demonstration of what is possible at the far edge of modern flight. The incident calms the initial shock and replaces it with a deeper appreciation for the complexities of aerospace engineering and the art of aerial combat. It encourages us to remain curious, to ask questions, and to always look for the truth that lies beyond the headline. The sky is full of wonders, and the most amazing ones are those we can understand, explain, and learn from.